Ladies and gentlemen, chess is a very difficult game. However, what's more difficult than playing a chess game at around a person that's in your age, is playing a chess game against a person that's 10 years younger than you. In chess, people that are younger benefit more because they're faster, they have more stamina, they're not more experienced, but they're faster with their calculations, and a little bit more, they go into more depth. So starting chess at a very young age is actually more beneficial. And today I played against a 7-year-old that's 1612 in ESO ratings, which is basically around 19 to 2000 in chess.com. As always, if you like these videos where I talk about my classical over-the-board tournaments, be sure to leave a like and subscribe and join the Discord server. That's all. Let's begin the video. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the thing. I already made an intro, so I don't know why I'm making a second one. I just came back from the game. I'm just uploading it at a later date because well, it's kind of late right now. Anyway, we have the white pieces, and my opponent is a 7-year-old with 1600 ESO, which is basically something like FIDE, but like for Greece. So let's begin. D4 F5. We have a Dutch defense. The defense which I did not expect to see at a classical tournament, but here we are. Normally I expect like knight f6 or d5 or e6, c5, something like that. I didn't expect a Dutch though. But because I played a lot of chess.com, I have preparation against the Dutch. c4, e6, knight f3. We have a Catalan against the Dutch, the eternal battle. Knight f6, g3, b6. So we're kind of switching it to a Queen's Indian-esque position, where most likely black will put a bishop here, support d5, eventually go knight to d7 and c5, and try to break up my center. I go bishop g2, he goes bishop b7, castles, bishop b4. Bishop b4 is very non-standard, but the engine actually here gives a line, c5. If it is taken, then apparently go a3 here and takes, and apparently this bishop is almost trapped, but you gotta go c6, and apparently white is really good here. I did not really see as far as the sequence, but I played the different move bishop g5, which doesn't give all of the advantage away. Essentially, the point of that was to, get a lot of central space and block basically everything that black wants to do. However, I see bishop g5, which is the main idea of the entire thing. In the Catalan, the dark square bishop, like I said all the time, is it's just ornamental. It's very bad. Now, there are situations where you can put it on b2 or keep it here. There are situations, but they're not that common. Anyway. Let's continue. Castles, and now we have the move a3. So I could probably guess that the move bishop b4 was to induce a3, but I wanted to play a little bit more before that, because now we're going to play the move h4. If you have followed top-level chess recently, or for a couple of years at least, h4 is just that one meta move that I'm slowly adding to my toolbox. It could be dangerous in some positions, but h4 is just, could support a future h5, h6, could support like a kingside attack in the future, or just take space, just like that, or could make an outside pass pawn in the future. d5, we have the strike at the center, and now things will get really complex from here on out. Knight to e5, knight to e4, forced trade, and e3. The better move, according to the engine, is taking this pawn and letting it do this, but apparently after knight c3 and something like takes, white has clarified their pawn structure at the expense of their a-pawn, which will be isolated. However, if a move like c5 happens, rook b1 apparently is given, and this isolated queen's pawn and this free pawn actually is really helping white because you get a lot of counterplay, and you will get this pawn back eventually. It's not that hard. However, I went for e3 because I didn't really like how this would go. Knight to d7, forced trade, and actually forced trade here. I expected bishop takes to kind of keep this bishop open. These two bishops will have a little bit of tension. However, we have e takes d5, shutting down that idea and probably preparing c5 in the future. Knight to d2, which essentially tries to get to f3. And if I am taken, and c5 happens, for example, here, we give him the hanging pawn structure, which is basically when pawns are not supported by pawn chain, and we can try to, try to attack them and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. We have bishop to c6, a strange reroute. Now, c5 was also a candidate move that I kind of expected here, like takes, again, the hanging pawn structure, but taking this knight actually would do more harm than good, and to black, because you would win this pawn. However, there's a line here, rook to d8, and then this bishop g2 maneuver, and apparently this is equal. I'm not sure how this is equal, but apparently after this move, and if you take this bishop, for example, and take like this, apparently now black equalizes, almost getting some slight advantage. Bishop to c6, the strange reroute to go bishop b5 or bishop a4. Knight to f3, we're trying to get to the e5 square, where this knight would be virtually 4 points of material instead of 3, because we could control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares. That's an octopus knight. There you go, you learned something today. Bishop b5, knight to e5, danger levels. We don't have to move the rook immediately, although that's the better move. However, the more practical approach is knight e5, because you win time. Queen to d6, rook e1. Okay, c5. Now the c5 break is it's the thing. And now there are two moves here. a4 I calculated, but then, bishop a6, and, this bishop stays on its diagonal for now. But also another move, rook to c1. If you take this knight, obviously you lose the knight if you take the pawn. Instead, we have rook to c1, which if taken now and have this pawn is actually kind of strong and actually cannot be easily won, and this knight still dominates the e5 square, and it will be really hard to get rid of that knight. It will just be really hard. However, instead of that, we have rook a to e8, preparing most likely an incoming assault. In the Dutch defense, you can attack, and that's the whole point of the Dutch most of the time, where you just attack your opponent mercilessly. Knight to f3. It's a very weird move, but really I did not see a way forward. The best move is f4, sacrificing the pawn, because if you take here, now apparently black is completely winning. However, if black does not fall for that and goes here, for example, now the pawn is truly hanging, and I have to give up my bishop and open up the f-file, and obviously this did not look pleasing at all. Apparently the engine can just kind of save it, but that did not look pleasing at all, and there was literally no other improving move. Like, let's say, for example, you play there's no improving move here. The other improving move that you have is a4. That's it. And after that, then b3, and that's it. You have no more stuff. So instead, we have knight to f3, which covers d2, and maybe eventually we'll go back to e5. c4. That's the problem with not covering, with not taking, for example, or, covering the square, obviously. Unfortunately for black, that's actually not losing for white, because I can just go right back, and that's exactly what I did. I just went right back. In my head, I was like, oh my god, I'm wasting time. What am I doing? No, that's actually the best course of action. That's the best course of action. Anyway, rook f6. Now the rook gets in. Now the rook is ready to become the angry fella. a4. Now we're attacking the bishop. Bishop a6 and b3, undermining the c4 pawn. If you extend pawns, sometimes they could be undermined like this. If you take this pawn, then I take back, and I have destroyed your bind. Yes, you do have a 2-on-1, but my pieces are there, and it's not really looking scary. And your attack, I don't think it's fast enough. I think my knight is a very good defender. If rook takes c5, however, which is what happened in the game, then the game is going to get really wild. What I expected was like a c3, and then I would... this pawn is kind of really advanced here, so I would take, let him open up the f-file, win this pawn, and survive this extreme attack here. And apparently after all of this is done, white is better, because the knight survives, covers a lot of squares. The bishop, even though it's so powerful standing on the light squares, has 0 targets except these 2 pawns and the queen if you count that it's on a light square. And that's it. Like, there's no more counterplay after that. So the best move, according to my opponent, was rook takes e5, sacrificing the rook for the 4-point knight. When I saw this move, I was like, geez. And I took back, and actually after queen takes, b takes, and bishop takes, and queen d4, black is lost, kind of. It's slightly, I mean, not slightly, it's better for white, but the reason why it's better for white after this exchange is because it's rook for knight. And actually, in the long run, white wins this. It's still kind of hard because the knight is really strong, but you can probably just snap it off in the future. But yeah, that's basically it. Anyway, d takes c5. I'm sorry, rook takes c5, d takes 5, queen takes 5, can't talk. Bishop takes queen d4, queen b8, and bishop to f1. I'm not joking when I said I played like almost stockfish today. I really used my time in this game and used my remaining brain cells to play this game. Bishop f1 top engine moves. This bishop is forced to trade. If the bishop even decides to retreat, that bishop is most likely just trapped, and probably you'll have to lose another pawn. And then you will most likely lose the game because your powerful attacker is gone. This knight doesn't really scare anybody. I mean, it's not that great. Then king g2, maybe replace the queen on the light squares, get some rooks involved, attack the other king, and so on and so forth. So bishop takes, and queen takes d5 intermezzo, or in-between move, or Zwiezenzug, 3 words for one tactic, wow. Where instead of taking the bishop immediately, where it wouldn't be as great because they actually get to keep their pawn, which is very weak, no questions asked, which will be lost later. Instead, we take the pawn immediately, and after this, it really matters what you take here with. Now, the engine says, doesn't matter. However, I played king takes f1. This is what I calculated. If I take with the rook, then there's a knight sacrifice. And if this happens, then the queen gets in. Again, there's nothing, but while I was thinking, I mean, it looked really scary on my head, right? It looked really scary. And, you know, this king opens up and could be ugly here. But king takes f1, if you try to do the same thing, this is not a check. And the queen doesn't actually check the king. Nowhere. Right? And now you actually checkmate your opponent because they went to h8 and they did not make a loft for their king. Always make a loft for the king, ladies and gentlemen. Queen f8, which probably aims for like knight takes. I don't know what it aims for. I think it just goes for f4 eventually. King to g2. It's a step in the wrong direction, but a very natural move. The best move is rook to c7, attacking this pawn, and then infiltrating the d file, and apparently black is completely winning here. And you can actually just straight up try to win the queen. You don't actually win the queen, but you just massively simplify this into a rook versus knight scenario, unless you obviously lose your rook. And you just win the game, basically. That's what happens. Queen f8, king g2, a bit more natural, trying to get the king off the center. Rook to d6, and now queen e5, rook d2, and the game gets really, really tense. After rook f1, queen a8, I calculated 6 different lines. First of all, we started with taking this pawn. This doesn't look, I mean, it's safe, but it doesn't look appetizing, you know what I mean? Like here, and there's discover check. It doesn't work, obviously, but it's not very appetizing. However, it actually is one of the ways to go. Then I calculated king g1. And again, I ruled it out because I was scared. And then I played in the game queen to c7, which actually gives nearly 50% of the advantage. Actually, more than 50%. But it's very natural. The idea is after they take with check, now you go queen to c6. Now you might say, wait a minute, isn't just taking this, and then you just block with the pawn. Again, same thing. I got scared, and I didn't like this. So instead of that, we have queen to c7, which after the knight takes on f2, we go to queen c6, knight to g4 check, king g1. We are literally on the verge of death. Like, fun fact, you can get mated here. King h3. You just get mated. Mated in one. Smothered with a rook and a knight. Can you imagine losing like that in a classical game that you've been playing for over half an hour? Maybe 1.5 hours? Yeah, me neither. Anyway, king to g1. You're literally on the verge of death, but actually the king is very safe, and for another reason. Every single one of these squares is covered tactically. For example, if you play anything that's, if you play a8, b8, or d8, I just put my queen right here. We trade queens. You're losing 2 rooks versus rook and knight. You're probably going to lose this game in the very, very long run. Also, your weak king doesn't do you any favors. If you play queen to f5, that's queen to e8, that's a free queen. If you play queen to f8, then there's a sacrifice. If you take its mate, like that, or like that, both are mates. And if you play, well, what was played in the game, queen to g8, then you just get overrun. The best move is taking the free pawn, obviously, but the more practical approach, if you're up material and your opponent is literally pinned in the back in the back rank, this queen literally cannot move, because if it moves, for example, let's say say a rook takes here, it's mate. Again, because you moved your king on h8 and you've given 0 loft, you are just a target for a mate. So yeah, not really good. Instead of taking the free pawn, we have rook f to d1. It's more practical, but not the best. Can't talk. The reason why it's more practical is this rook cannot go anywhere. Otherwise, you do a queen trade and you just win this in your sleep. So they have to takes queen to b8 for some reason, attacking the pawn, and the only move to save the game, queen to d6, threatening mate, threatening a queen trade, queen to g8, queen d8 immediately, don't even defend the pawn, knight takes c3, takes, and you win this in your sleep. And around this moment, my opponent offered me a draw. If you look at the eval, you can clearly see that this is not even close to a draw. And this knight is virtually trapped. Eventually, it gets trapped here. There's a line, which will happen in the game later. But he dared to offer me a draw here. And I looked at him, and I said, no, and I smiled. And everyone in that room that was left, around 2 to 3 people, because everyone else left, knew exactly what was coming for that kid. And they were not wrong. A couple moves later, he just moves his king around and his pawns for no reason. I trap his knight. If you look closely, this rook is actually trapping these 2 squares, and this is the only square left, and he can only hop around these 2 squares. If the king comes, it's over for the knight, and that's actually what happens. Loses the knight, and then for the rest of the game, I am the one calling the shots. And as you can clearly see, I didn't go for the rook checkmate because BM begins. Yes, it's that time of the month again. And we make... My opponent also, fun fact here, he grabbed my queen, from the side to give it to me, and I said no. And I grabbed the knight, and I make a knight. During this entire time, the kid was so frustrated. I have to say, the facial expressions from the arbiter to their friends, like his teammates were laughing, like his own brother was laughing, and my teammates were also laughing in the background. I don't know how they did. I think they won like 2 games. I don't know about the rest of them. Mine is the third one as well. I don't know how we did. I'll learn like tomorrow or someday. But yeah, and after this, I remove my knight, and I make a rook, and on the 78th move around there, I checkmated with 2 rooks and a knight on the board. The lesson here is, if you're in a classical tournament and you're losing, don't offer a draw. because they will most likely call your bluff. Like, it's, come on, don't do this. And yeah, don't do it, because I will BM you. And after this game, there's a very high probability that I get an ESO ELO, which means I will be officially in the database and I will actually have a numbers on my ELO and not just nothing. So I will have something in my ELO that will represent me. So that's it. That was a fun game. Actually, if you think about it, I was not lost for a single move in this game. Like, maybe Black had a slight advantage, but it was so, like, the maximum Black got was a minus 0.2. That's the maximum Black got in this entire game. And the rest of the game was just me using my time properly, because I didn't know how to use my classical time. I still had to figure out that I had 1.5 hours with 40 seconds increment. I did not know how to use my time, thanks to Tenno Rapid. But yeah, here we are. It was a very good game. I don't know why it's called Agincourt Defense. This derives from the English. If you're interested, this is what I also play against the English E6, and there are a couple lines here with these three. And now you can always transpose it to a French defense, obviously, which is what I aim for. But yeah, that's it. There's also this, which is kind of awful, I believe. I don't know how this is called, but it's probably called something. Anyway, that's it. That's the video. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. See ya.